Since October 2009, League of Legends has been around, and in this series I will discuss the lore of every in-game character in order of release date. If you'd like to see more or support me directly, then please subscribe to the channel.
Let's find some friends.
Though legends surrounding Amumu have long been part of Shuriman tradition, his real origins remain unknown and up for discussion. Shurimans have told innumerable origin stories about Amumu, but since no one can settle on a single story, it is unclear whether these stories are true. Though even this isn't entirely agreed upon, the most plausible explanation is that Amumu is actually a Yordle who has implanted himself into Shuriman culture. Some suggest that Amumu was a young undead prince, while others say he's a wandering ghost. Numerous historical accounts of Amumu exist because he has been a central character in Shuriman society since prehistoric times. Although there are numerous differences amongst these tales, one aspect always appears in them all. Amumu is a mummy who, as a result of his lethal touch, is cursed to be alone and must spend all of his time wandering the desert in the quest of a buddy. A mythology surrounding Amumu linked him to Shurima's first ruling dynasty, saying that they contracted a horrible sickness that had Amumu stay in quarantine in his chambers. A servant girl who heard Amumu's tears through the walls would frequently visit him, becoming friendly in the process and giving courtly news and stories about her mystic grandmother. The girl informed Amumu one day that his older brother had passed away from the disease, establishing Amumu as Shurima's recognized emperor. The servant girl chose to go inside his chambers and console him, feeling sorry for him for having to bear this news by himself. Amumu knew as he gave his companion a hug that he had touched her and spread the same blight that had killed his family, resulting in her death. The young emperor was cursed by the girl's grandmother, who became furious on the day of her death and kept him forever in a state of agony. According to a different story, Amumu was a ruthless and young monarch who made his people revere him like a god. The fabled Eye of Angor, a relic that is said to bestow eternal life on anybody who looks at it with unwavering devotion, was sought for by the youthful monarch. Amumu searched for the relic for years, leading a group of slaves into perilous catacombs while forcing them to survive lethal traps. Amumu raced inside and peered into the relic as soon as he could when they eventually arrived at the chamber housing the Eye of Angor. Seizing the chance, his henchmen turned on Amumu and shut the door, enclosing the young ruler in the shadows. The young Amumu tore at his own skin, hiding the wounds with bandages, and suffered darkness for years until he was driven insane. The Eye of Angor prolonged Amumu's life so that he may consider his previous sins, but in doing so, he cursed himself with perpetual loneliness. Amumu came from the grave, entirely covered in bandages, seeking atonement for the pain he inflicted during his reign as emperor, following a series of earthquakes that broke the tomb's foundation and opened its doors. According to one of Amumu's most strange legends, he ruled Shurima as the first and last Yordle emperor. Believing that people are generally kind, Amumu took a pledge to live as a beggar until he gained one loyal friend. He did this because he thought that his people would rise up and support him, but even though thousands of people passed by the destitute Amumu, no one would offer him assistance, and he finally passed away from a shattered heart. There are many who maintain that the Yordle never really died, but instead that he lives on indefinitely in the desert, searching for someone to bring back his faith in people. Even with the passing of the final monarch Azir, the stories of Amumu are still prevalent in the contemporary Shurima. It is commonly thought that Amumu still roams the desert, his cries resonating through the winds as he moans over his failure to make companions. Some people assert that they have personally encountered the mummy and that a mere touch of him causes disease and death. Amumu's loneliness is described in a song as the curse of the sad mummy across Valoran, which follows him around the globe in need of companionship. By the time the song ends, it is told that Amumu's frail soul had had enough of the curse and threw a fit, destroying the village and, regrettably, finding himself abandoned once more. Amumu keeps wandering aimlessly over the sands, not sure what he's searching for: redemption, friendship, or a simple act of compassion. Nevertheless, his quest goes unsatisfied. Storyteller Khaldun claimed to have discovered Amumu's tomb after it cracked open following an earthquake, despite the fact that many people still claim to have seen Amumu today. As he made his way inside the tomb, he noticed wall carvings that provided details of Amumu's life. Some of the engravings showed a small child perched atop the Shurima sun disk, while others showed him lying on his deathbed with a group of people either in celebration or in grief. He ultimately came across Amumu, who hid themselves in the shadows and refused to come out after hearing the wails of what he believed to be a lost child and discovering puddles of salt water, which he felt was impossible to find so deep underground the deserts. Amumu only responded that it was unclear of where he was or how he got there, having his memory lost over the thousands of years. To Khaldoon's pitying question about whether he was lost, Khaldoon moved in closer to console the small child, only to discover that he was actually a mummy. Khaldoon gazed at his arm in horror as Amumu's wrapped hand gripped onto it and begged if he could be his friend. He watched as the arm quickly began to slip off. Fearful, Khaldoon hastily left the tomb, leaving it open and allowing Amumu to wander the desert. Khaldoon lived to tell his descendants a story, which raises doubts about its veracity but explains why he is missing an arm. And that is the story of Amumu. Thank you for listening, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.